3 months ago, during the summer recess, this event took place. I am remarkable. From time to time, my 35-year-old Uncle Donald, who possesses a striking physique and charm, would invite me to his apartment during the summer months. Getaway. I remembered him from my younger days, nonetheless. It had been nearly 5 years since our paths last crossed. I found it to be a delightful idea, especially while I was stuck at home, oblivious to what would come next. He is 35 years old. While it may not be immediately apparent, his attractiveness and evident fitness suggest a strong commitment to self-care, reflected in his smooth skin and perfectly styled hair. Moreover, his aroma, a fusion of crisp cologne and his inherent essence, remains in my vicinity, a quality I find utterly captivating. As a result, he has extended an invitation for me to join him at his home for a summer getaway, just the two of us. His home perfectly captures a mix of elegance and warmth, radiating a laid-back charm that is distinctly his own. A mix of excitement and unease washed over me, the reason for which remained a mystery. Upon arriving at his residence, he immediately offered me a cold beer, a gesture that perfectly encapsulates Donald's relaxed and thoughtful nature. He offered it with a charming smile that made me feel uniquely recognized. He then declared, "I am going to change out of these clothes. Please, make yourself at home." I merely nodded, striving to keep my composure intact. Though my heart raced, uncertainty lingers within me. Though I had known him for a while, there was something about being in his presence that made everything feel sharper and more alive. I nestled into my seat with a beer, trying to shift my focus by taking in the surroundings, which exuded a minimalist elegance, featuring dark wood floors, a selection of framed photographs on the shelves, and sumptuous leather furnishings. The atmosphere was filled with his fragrance, and as soon as I heard his footsteps echoing in the hallway, I felt an irresistible urge to follow him. I am unable to clarify. An invisible urge seemed to draw me from the chair, guiding my steps down the corridor. The door to his room stood ajar, and though I knew I ought to refrain from peeking, my curiosity got the better of me. I can confidently say it was the most mesmerizing sight I have ever encountered. He faced away from the door, peeling off his shirt, and the way his muscles shifted under his skin evoked a cinematic moment. His back was broad and well-defined, showcasing the distinct shapes of his shoulders and arms. His skin glistened with a warm bronze hue, and I observed the graceful movement of his back muscles as he slipped into the shirt, casually shedding his trousers afterward. I found myself taken aback by the sight of his legs, equally toned and powerful, hinting at the capability to run a marathon or lift a vehicle. And then there was his posterior, hard and muscular, with a form that left one utterly speechless. A gentle warmth wrapped around me as I bit my lip. As I descended slowly, like a smoldering flame, my heart raced in my chest, requiring a deliberate effort to breathe. I was resolute in my efforts to remain unseen. I made an effort to leave, yet I felt completely frozen, trapped in my current stance. As I took in the sight of him, I realized that my presence suggested I should not be observing him in this way. Yet I found myself drawn to him with an undeniable force. A feeling washed over me, a tightness coiling in my stomach, a mixture of unease and yearning. My hands felt damp and my mouth was dry. Finally, he finished his transformation, pulling me back to the present moment. I turned and almost sprinted back to the living room, trying to maintain an air of casualness. I lingered in my seat, nursing my beer, trying to calm my racing heart, as I kept conjuring the image of him, relaxed and unaware of the effect he had on me. The experience was unlike anything I had ever faced, leaving me in a state of uncertainty about what would unfold next. I was still working to gather my thoughts when he walked back into the living room, dressed in a white t-shirt and loose gray shorts, a straightforward outfit. He managed to present himself as if he were gracing the cover of a magazine, his hair still glistening with moisture. The aroma of him surrounded me again, even stronger this time, crisp and pure. There was an elusive undertone that I couldn't quite pinpoint, yet I was certain it would linger in my memory forever. He sank onto the couch next to me. His body was positioned so near that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. He savored a long sip of his beer, then leaned back, letting out a soft, contented sigh. He mused to himself, "It has been quite a week. The burden of tasks has become quite heavy. I find myself utterly drained. He cast a fleeting look my way, accompanied by a subtle, tired smile. I plan to indulge in a brief slumber. I trust that this is agreeable, conceded, striving to keep my poise. He confidently stated, "Of course you deserve it." He closed his eyes and leaned back against the couch, one arm casually draped over the backrest. His legs sprawled with ease, radiating a natural assurance that defines a select few. I focused intently on the beer in my hand. My gaze kept drifting back to him, the way his t-shirt clung to his chest and the relaxation of his jaw as he started to unwind revealed a genuine and unfiltered glimpse of him in this unprotected and vulnerable moment. I find myself questioning the reasons behind my actions, pondering if it was the influence of alcohol or perhaps the buildup of weeks filled with unvoiced emotions. Despite everything, I stood tall, set my beard aside, and moved closer to him, my heart pounding intensely, a tangible thrum in my throat. He kept his eyes shut as I approached, and for a fleeting moment, I almost faltered, yet it was without deliberate consideration. I slipped behind the couch, my hands finding their place on his shoulders. He tightened for a brief moment, then eased, letting out a deep sigh. "Wow," he murmured, his voice deep and gravelly, evoking a sense of warmth and comfort. I began to work my fingers into his shoulders, sensing the tension in the muscles under my touch. His skin radiated warmth, and his shoulders exuded a broad, firm strength. I felt the tension melting away under my fingers, his breathing slowing, his body unwinding. I gently traced my fingers to the nape of his neck and then back up, easing the tension in the knots. I find myself unsure of how long my actions will last, but I noticed him sinking deeper into the couch, his head tilting ever so slightly forward. I raised my hands to the nape of his neck, weaving my fingers through his hair, letting them settle at the base of his skull. He let out a low sound, almost a groan, that reverberated within me, sending my entire body into a heightened state of sensitivity. With my skin tingling, I leaned in, my heart racing, and gently pressed my lips to his cheek, a fleeting gesture to assess his response. He remained still, his eyes closed, which encouraged me to lean in and kiss him once more, this time at the edge of his jaw. The texture of the stubble brushed against my lips, both coarse and invitingly warm. I then moved closer to his ear, placing a gentle kiss just below it, before trailing down to his neck. His skin exuded a gentle warmth beneath my lips, and I could sense the rhythm of his pulse. As I immersed myself in the endeavor, I was engulfed by passion. Every nerve in my body tingled with anticipation, eagerly awaiting his response. I found myself in a state of doubt, pondering whether he would turn me away, respond with amusement, or command me to stop. Yet, he lifted his hand, weaving it through my hair, his fingers gently curling at the nape of my neck. He stayed quiet, his eyes shut, enveloping me in a hold that was at once strong and tender. I pressed my lips against his neck, each movement intentional, relishing the briny taste of his skin. His breathing grew more pronounced, and I could sense the rhythm of his chest as it rose and fell. His other hand rose to my hip, his fingers pressing in just enough to leave me feeling disoriented. The situation left me utterly perplexed. I recognized the path this was taking. All I understood was that I had no desire to stop his hand. My fingers were deeply woven in his hair, guiding me effortlessly as I pressed my lips against his neck, feeling the steady heartbeat beneath my touch. With every heartbeat, my longing deepened into a swirling fog. His skin exuded a warmth that was almost searing. His deliberate, measured breaths heightened my longing for him. I placed myself directly in front of him, having maneuvered around the sofa. His eyes stayed closed, head tilted back. Yet, a faint smile played on his lips, hinting that he fully understood the circumstances at hand. I found it impossible to bear. I positioned myself on his knees, straddling him with intention. My hands lay gently on his chest as his eyes slowly fluttered open, locking onto mine. There was an indescribable expression, as if he perceived all my emotions and desires, reflecting precisely what he felt in return. I leaned in, our faces only inches apart, and I could sense his breath on my lips. The atmosphere between us was filled with electricity, rendering my thoughts nearly incoherent. He bridged the distance, pushing his lips on mine. It was neither gentle nor tentative. It was insatiable and insistent. His lips pressed into mine as if he had anticipated this moment. As long as our tongues intertwined, the world faded away. I slid my hands beneath his t-shirt, encountering the firm contours of his abdomen as his muscles tensed under my touch. I instinctively explored every inch of him. He raised his arms, prompting me to remove his shirt, which I discarded. The sight of him shirtless, breathing heavily with eyes filled with desire, was nearly overwhelming. His chest was broad and well-defined, each muscle exquisitely sculpted, and I traced my fingers down his torso. His hands grasped my waist, fingers pressing in as he drew me nearer, allowing me to sense the heat emanating from his strong abdominal muscles beneath his skin. His body pressed against mine through my clothing, each point of contact igniting sensations within me. I leaned down, bestowing kisses along his jaw, down his neck, and across his collarbone. He tilted his head back, emitting a low, rumbling sound that sent shivers through my entire being. I continued my descent, kissing his chest, savoring the saltiness of his skin, and feeling the tension and relaxation of his muscles beneath my lips. At some point, my shirt lay discarded on the floor while his hands explored my bare skin, strong and assured, leaving a trail of warmth in their wake. He moved forward, his mouth on my neck, his teeth brushing against the delicate skin, eliciting a quiet sigh from my lips. He replied by pulling me closer, his hands grabbing mine as I slipped off his lap, squatting between his legs. I gazed up at him, and he observed me with an intensity that quickened my heartbeat. I will refrain from elaborating much, you may infer the details, but suffice it to say that the noises he produced, those deep, breathy gasps, were the most exquisite I have ever encountered. His head reclined against the sofa, his hands entwined in my hair, his body alternating between tension and relaxation beneath my touch. I must admit, I had never encountered such an intensity before. I was so immersed in the sensation that I entirely lost awareness of my actions. To my uncle, not only a man but an uncle, I am composing this now, and I am somewhat astonished. As he pulled me back up, his eyes were darker than I had ever observed. He then stood, took my hand, and guided me to the sofa. He subdued me, his body enveloped mine, his weight both strong and reassuring, and his hands roamed freely, caressing, pushing, and probing, leaving me insatiable. It was intense and primal. I will not deceive. It was painful initially. He is not diminutive, however. There was an aspect to his embrace and the manner in which his hands traversed my skin that instilled a sense of security. He possessed strength and confidence, yet exhibited carefulness, as if he understood the delicate equilibrium between pleasure and pain. Gradually, the discomfort dissipated, supplanted by an overwhelming surge of pleasure. His rhythm and touch suggested an intimate knowledge of my body, with each movement and thrust eliciting shivers. His hands firmly yet gently gripped my hips, demonstrating their strength. The sounds he emitted were low, deep, and almost primal. He was completely absorbed, lost in the moment, and I was wholly there alongside him. The experience went beyond the tangible realm. It captured a deep bond and fervor, as though we were completely exposed. Our movements flowed together seamlessly, and the outside world faded away into oblivion. Only we were left, every touch, kiss, and breath infused with an electric energy. This tension intensified. We lingered on the couch, breathless, enveloped in a haze of intimacy, feeling the warmth radiating from his body. His chest pressed against mine, offering a feeling of strength and comfort. A sense of safety enveloped me as his warmth transcended the physical realm, wrapping me in a deep embrace that grounded my very being. His arms held me tightly, steady and resolute, and I felt his heartbeat slowing, aligning with mine. He shifted his stance, leaning in to press his body against mine, wrapping his arms around my waist and pulling me closer, making it impossible for me to resist his hold. His body heat radiated with intensity, almost searing, yet in an uplifting way. Every part of my being seemed to weave together with his, as though I was connected to something far beyond my own existence. He leaned closer, his breath a gentle warmth against my neck. His lips were soft and purposeful, planting gentle kisses along my shoulder. He moved forward at a deliberate pace. Every kiss was intentional, drawn out as though he were savoring the experience. The roughness of his stubble brushed against my skin, a stark contrast to the gentle touch of his lips, igniting a cascade of shivers along my spine. Then he executed a deed that left my whole being feeble. He pressed his face into the curve of my neck, taking a deep breath. It surpassed the simplicity of a kiss or a touch. I felt his deep breaths, as though he were trying to etch my scent into his very being. His breath caressed my skin, and with every exhale, a delightful shiver ran through me. His lips brushed against my neck. Once again, at a slower tempo, his lips approached my ear, reflecting his movements and embrace, which were both possessive and gentle, as if he were claiming me while also protecting me. His hands glided over my abdomen, fingers tracing slow, gentle circles on my skin. Every touch was charged with energy, sending tingles through my body and sharpening my perception of every connection we shared. I leaned into him, my head resting on his shoulder, encouraging him to pull me closer in his embrace. I felt anchored, as if I could let go of all worries and just be present in that moment with him. The heat of his body enveloped me, and I felt the steady rhythm of his breath against my back, a gentle rise and fall that resonated within me. He pressed his face into my neck again, offering another soft kiss just beneath my ear. "You drive me insane," he murmured, his voice scarcely above a whisper, uttered as if it were an uncontrollable impulse, sending a thrill through me. I slightly turned my head. Our faces were so close that our noses brushed, his eyes were dark and intense, conveying a gaze that seemed to penetrate my very being. He pressed his forehead against mine, our breaths intertwining, and for a moment, we remained in silence, devoid of words or movement, simply existing. Then he kissed me again, softly and slowly, as if attempting to convey everything he could not articulate through that singular kiss. His hands glided up my sides, tracing every curve and line. It transcended the physical, as though he were memorizing and understanding me. His fingers brushed over my ribs, ascending to my shoulders and then descending again, each touch eliciting waves of warmth within me, prompting an involuntary smile at this sensation, pervading my chest, unrelated to corporeal warmth. I turned to face him, and he drew me into his lap, his arms encircling me tightly, his hand resting across my back, as if he could not bear any distance between us. In that moment, he seemed to forget that I possessed his amusing belongings. Eventually, I found myself reclined on his chest, enveloped in his strong embrace. The room was silent, the only sounds being our measured breaths and the soft rustle of the breeze outside the window. His skin radiated warmth beneath me, and his heartbeat provided a steady, reassuring rhythm against my ear. The rise and fall of his chest anchored me in a moment I wished to prolong. His fingers traced gentle patterns through my hair, moving slowly and almost absent-mindedly, yet each stroke elicited a soothing wave within me, possessed a profound intimacy, an experience that transcended the physical connection we had merely shared. It seemed as though he was attempting to console me as well. He sought to reassure either me or himself. His touch was gentle, he was cautious, as though fearing I might escape if he released his hold. We remained in quiet for a while, entwined, the warmth of our bodies merging to form a cocoon of comfort and security. I sensed the tension gradually dissipating from him, his muscles loosening beneath me. However, there was an additional heaviness, an unarticulated burden. His fingers in my hair slowed, and I perceived a change in his breathing, which deepened as if he were consolidating his thoughts. Ultimately, he exhaled, and the weight of that breath was tangible. His chest rose and fell beneath me, and I could feel the tension re-emerging within him, this time manifesting as a tightness, a form of restraint, as though he were suppressing something. The warmth that had previously been reassuring now felt precarious, as if it could fracture with one inappropriate phrase. It was evident that he was endeavoring to articulate or rationalize an indefinable sentiment. His hand's hesitation during a subtle movement beneath me conveyed regret. I sensed the unspoken apology prior to his verbalization. A quiet plea for understanding lingered in the calm of his fingers tangled in my hair and the fleeting pause of his breath. I needed no spoken assurance to predict his upcoming remark. It was a mistake. It was unwise to let the situation reach such a level. I felt the heaviness pressing down on him, the guilt creeping in from the edges. It seemed he was trying to create a gap between us, even while keeping me near. Nevertheless, I would not allow that to happen. I shifted a bit to meet his eyes and sensed the turmoil he was wrestling with inside. His eyes held a depth of darkness and turmoil, burdened with a multitude of unvoiced emotions. Guilt lingered, certainly, yet beneath it lay a deep yearning and fragility that he sought to hide. I reached out, my fingertips tracing the line of his jaw. The roughness of stubble against my skin. I felt the tension, the way he clenched his jaw, holding back in the moment he thought required his voice. A hush fell over the scene, a stillness that held everything in suspension, the weight of the moment pressing heavily upon us both. In that moment, I gently pressed my finger against his lips, halting his words with a tender touch. Before their possible release, I found no reason to engage with them. I found myself reluctant to do so. It was not a matter that required an apology. Instead, it was a situation that warranted deep regret. This was an authentic experience, one we both needed, and I was determined not to let him change it. I looked into his eyes, my own mirroring a deep sense of conviction and sincerity. That was beyond question. I required minimal expression. The truth was evident. This was not a deed he had committed against me. It was an experience we both immersed ourselves in, something I longed for just as intensely as he did. This was my doing. I took the first step, and I experienced no regret. Not even for a moment. I rested my hand against his cheek, my thumb softly tracing the contours of his skin. Remorse found no room to exist. Through my gestures, I conveyed a shared sense of responsibility for what had occurred. This was not a mistake. It was a conscious decision, a yearning, and we lay entwined that night, wrapped in one another's warmth as we stirred awake the next morning. I briefly found it difficult to remember the events that took place. My thoughts were shrouded, caught in a delicate balance between dreams and the waking world. After a few moments, the haze lifted, and I found myself reflecting on everything that had transpired the day before, accompanied by a profound sense of yearning. In the morning, one often lacks the motivation to engage. However, in this case, the situation was unique. I desire his presence at our meeting. I trust you understand that I got up from the ground, the chill of the surface against my bare feet, and made my way to the kitchen. In that moment, an undeniable closeness enveloped them. Watching him in the serene morning light, immersed in the simple ritual of making breakfast, exuded a sense of homely warmth. I moved toward him without a second thought, wrapping my arms around his waist and leaning my cheek against his back. His skin exuded warmth and a firm texture. The steady ebb and flow of his breathing was evident to me. For a fleeting moment, he froze, his muscles tensing under my fingertips. He let out a deep, shaky breath, his body gradually relaxing against mine. Even without turning, he persisted in his twitching. The eggs, despite the gradual slowing of his actions, were imbued with greater intention. I perceived his anxiety, yet it was not of a constructive nature, but rather tinged with reluctance and uncertainty. His shoulders tightened, his breath caught in his throat, and he inhaled deeply. The strain in his voice was palpable as he struggled to express intricate ideas. His tone carried a quiet weight when he finally found his words. It felt like he was having a dialogue with himself, conveying that it was a mistake for us to allow things to escalate to such a degree. He expressed his gratitude, yet I chose not to allow it. With precision, I raised my hand, gently turning him to face me. His eyes revealed a deep sense of turmoil. A whirlwind of emotions danced in their eyes, a blend of shame and uncertainty, but there lingered another feeling beneath the surface. A palpable sense of longing and delicacy he tried to hide was unmistakable. I observed it in the way his hands hung loosely at his sides, suggesting a hesitation in how to control them. The rest of the information from his statements was unnecessary for my needs. I perceived the forthcoming declaration he was about to make. We crossed a line, and it was a mistake. We should not have allowed it to happen. However, I felt nothing of the sort. I experienced no regret, nor did I doubt my choice for even a moment. This was authentic. This was ours. I looked up at him, holding his gaze for a fleeting instant, letting the quiet express what I struggled to put into words. Maintaining this bond, I lowered myself to my knees in front of him, collecting my hair, my hands gently placed on his hips. I felt a shift in the rhythm of his breath, a hesitation that echoed through the stillness of his entire being. The air was thick with a palpable tension, yet unmistakably clear. The eggs were a touch overcooked, yet neither of us seemed to care. He leaned against the bar counter, and soon after, I found myself in the kitchen, resting my palms on the cool surface of the counter, taking in the details of my surroundings. The morning air was crisp and invigorating, but the warmth that enveloped us was undeniable. I felt him close behind me, so near that my heartbeat quickened. There was an unexpected comfort in it too, as if nothing else mattered beyond this moment and this feeling. His body was just inches away from mine, and I could feel his steady warmth, his solid form offering a comforting presence that brought a sense of safety and stability. His warm and steady breath against the back of my neck sent a delightful shiver racing down my spine. In that instant, the world around us faded away, leaving just the two of us, as if time itself had slowed to a gentle crawl. His hands connected with me through a gentle yet purposeful touch on my shoulders, his fingertips softly pressing into my skin, stirring a quiet warmth within me. The way his hands moved across my body was soothing and reassuring, making me lean into his touch almost without thinking. One hand glided to my waist, and I felt his palm, firm and warm, softly resting against my side. A subtle tension lingered, a reminder of the genuine nature of the moment and the bond we shared. Until this moment, I had never truly grasped the depth of my longing for such closeness. The closeness of his body, the heat radiating from him, and the intentional gestures of his hands hinted at a yearning to express something that remained unarticulated. I felt his fingers gently gliding through my hair, a moment that was both tender and soothing. His touch was gentle, yet it carried an undeniable power. A calm assurance enveloped me, allowing me to lean into him, unafraid of the possibility of falling. His breath behind me was slow and measured, each exhale lingering in the air, as if he were savoring the moment just as deeply as I was. Every breath out was a subtle comfort, an unspoken vow that what we shared would not come to an end. I felt the rise and fall of his chest with every breath, and there was a profound closeness in our shared space, lacking any spoken words, just the rhythm of our bodies in harmony. It was a natural and seamless experience, yet deeply powerful, as though every part of me vibrated in harmony with him. His hands moved from my shoulders to my waist, pulling me closer, and I could feel the warmth of his body radiating against mine. A soft weight from his presence behind me created a stabilizing feeling, pushing everything else into the background, as though we existed in our own private world. I longed for this sensation to endure. It made everything else fade into the background, the chaos in the kitchen, the ticking clock, even the outside world. What truly held significance was the bond we shared, a deep yet uncomplicated closeness, his hands moving over me with careful precision, and the harmony of our breaths intertwining. This moment was undeniably where I was destined to be. Nothing else held any importance. There was no need for dialogue or any additional demands. The serene atmosphere of the kitchen, bathed in the soft glow of morning light, combined with his calming presence, his hands resting on me, his body close to mine, urged me to savor this moment and the feelings it brought forth. It was a unique moment of flawless harmony, where I sensed recognition, attentiveness, and understanding without the need for expression. A subtle, unarticulated bond lingered in the background, patiently biding its time for the perfect moment to emerge. In that moment, all I needed was the warmth of his hands, the rhythm of his breath, the essence of his presence. It included all aspects. The days that followed flew by, and honestly, I found myself hoping they would stretch on forever. Every exchange we shared flowed seamlessly and felt entirely natural. It was neither remarkable nor dramatic. It was merely the essence of our shared presence, relishing each moment. We chose not to delve into the events or what lies ahead. We lingered in that moment briefly, savoring the satisfaction it brought. Even though I knew it was coming to an end, thoughts of leaving crossed my mind, and I realized just how deeply I longed to stay. I had grown accustomed to his presence, stirring awake beside him, finding comfort in his company. The idea of going back to my regular routine without it felt strange. The issue transcended simple physical ties. It captured every detail, the closeness, the peaceful moments, the way we blended together. We chose not to delve into our circumstances, which may have enhanced our experience. It seemed that we both recognized its fleeting essence, simply a chance for us to savor the experience without any burdens or anticipations. We truly cherished our moments together, no matter how long they lasted. With the arrival of autumn, I eagerly anticipate the next chance to see him. I look forward to it with great enthusiasm, even though it may not bring about any significant change. Yet, I still remember those days, the connection we shared, and the joy it brought. It was an extraordinary experience, one I would never trade for anything so personal, so deep, so unforgettable. From time to time, we still exchange messages through text. Though it may not be a regular topic of conversation, we sometimes unveil glimpses of our lives through photographs, capturing fragments of our existence. I sent him pictures of the natural world, small nuances to nurture our bond. Yet, I find myself grappling with a certain frustration, as we both acknowledge the importance of maintaining discretion. We cannot explore public spaces. Our connection must remain hidden. It reveals a unique closeness with my biological uncle.